Welcome to BLNet's first ever Boomkin breakdown. I'm Makerlove Blood Legion, and I'll be bringing you through what I do inside and outside of games to get the most out of my Boomkin DPS. To kick it off, we'll be going to the gameplay section of the guide. Throughout this section, I'll be narrating my ideas for different PvE rotations, and you'll be able to see all my moves with this action bar I have displayed for you. Start, I'll be going over the opening rotation, and my goals in the opening rotation are to maximize your pre-pot and your trinket procs along with cooldowns and solar eclipse buff. So the way I do that is to have mushrooms down before the boss where it will be to detonate during solar eclipse, and as the tank counts down I will pre-pot and starfire and pop my cooldowns. So how that goes is pulling in 5, 4, pre-pot 3, 2, 1, trees, starfall, insect swarm, moonfire, starfire, getting into eclipse very fast here. As soon as I get into eclipse, I see that power torrent is activated, and I will be trying to detonate my mushrooms, get as much damage as I can. Next goal is to clip this dot, both insect swarm and moonfire, before the last tick to get extra long ticks of both sunfire and insect swarm, which is a much stronger dot and will lead to greater damage. Next, racing quickly to the other eclipse and just doing the same job here. In lunar eclipse, I like to let these insect swarm and sunfire run off completely because they do more damage than the respective lunar versions of these dots. As a troll, you'll want to cast Berserking when you're just casting Starfire the majority of the time, as a longer cast will gain more benefits from haste. And here I clip dots again before the last tick, getting an extra tick of these solar dots along with power torrent buff dots, the most damage possible from these being your best dots. And rinse and repeat for the main rotation. Next we'll be covering the standard single target rotation. Oftentimes during fights you'll find yourself moving and dots not lining up with eclipse very well. So I'll be focusing on when to refresh dots and when to hold dots, as well as when to cast Star Surge and when to save it for eclipse. I've just chosen an arbitrary point on the eclipse bar to start our rotation. Of course, insect swarm, then moonfire first. I'm saving both Star Surge and Starfall for lunar eclipse as they're both very close. Pop Berserking here. I like to cast proper Berserking as soon as I hit lunar usually. Redot obviously to gain buff dots before I leave. If you're anywhere between below 80 energy roughly, I like to cast Star Surge, as with a 4-piece tier 13 it will be back up for eclipse when you need it. Looking at dots, I want to refresh between less than 3 seconds on each dot to gain the extra tick of buffed sunfire and insect swarm. I try to get Star Surge off during eclipse. That's all to do with travel time, whether or not you can actually get the buff cast or not, but you would always cast it regardless. Always cast Starfall as soon as you can if you're in lunar. Wait for these dots to fall off as I refresh them, and head on to solar eclipse again. I'll be casting Star Surge here as it comes out of cooldown because I'll have plenty of time for it to come back up during solar like I want it to. I want to refresh the dots with the extra tick again, get these solar dots with the extra tick, huge damage. You see I'll be running out, my dots will be running out in a non-ideal place, but it's worth losing the uptime for me. That's above 80 energy to just get into lunar eclipse. Even if dots are falling off, you only get about 4 seconds lost tops. I'd say just go into eclipse and grab that Nature's Grace. I cast Star Surge here because with a 10-second cooldown, it will easily be back up during solar again. I let dots fall off there again too because overriding these dots is wasting globals with less than 4 seconds of downtime. With greater than 4 seconds of downtime, as in with travel time and with eclipse delay I'll be talking about in the upcoming portion, I would be refreshing them. For instance here I would refresh, because I have about 5 seconds of downtime. That's too much of damage loss. Again, focus, less than 3 seconds on each dot, get that extra tick of both these strong solar dots. Doing that will improve your DPS greatly. And you can start to see the pattern of when to redot, when to hold Star Surge, and that just holds true for almost all situations. A lot of counters that you've seen in every raid tier, especially in Dragon Soul, involve multi-target fights. The best way for Moonkins to deal damage to multiple targets is to put up just both your dots on all targets. The way I do this, the way I think is most comfortable, is to dot all targets at the same time regardless of the number of targets. That way when you have to redot one target, you'll know when the other dots are lining up to be refreshed as well. For a 2-target encounter, which is what I'll start with, I like to dot once per eclipse on each of them and use my shooting stars procs from extra dots to just move as fast as possible to the next eclipse. So starting off, we just dot both targets, make this my focus target and dot that as well. And then I'll Starfall and get right into single target rotation. I let these solar dots expire on my focus before I switch over and dot that. Coming up here, you'll see my dots are going to fall substantially before the next eclipse. It is worth it, oftentimes especially if you have movement, to redot on your way. Since I already have dots up, I'm just going to ride these dots out before refreshing dots, and that way I'll make ground back up and not come into that situation as fast as I would before otherwise. If you do this correctly, the Insect Swarm and Moonfire on your main target will always be about 2 to 3 seconds faster than the ones on your focus target. Eventually becomes second nature, and you will just be able to watch your single target rotation and know exactly when it's time to switch. Coming up in the last section of our guide, we'll be talking about eclipse mechanics and travel time. If you haven't noticed yet playing a Boomkin, that you do not gain eclipse and lose eclipse when you think you would during the casts. You actually have a slight delay in both gaining and losing eclipse buff. I'll demonstrate that for you here. As I cast Starfire, I'll be casting Moonfire directly afterward, and you'll see that I would be entering a solar eclipse, but I will not gain Sunfire. I will be gaining Moonfire instead. That is due to the travel time between finishing your Starfire and actually gaining the solar eclipse buff, which you can see here. Understanding that is very important to getting the most damage you can from eclipse and other buffs that you gain. The two main ways you'll be able to take advantage of this delay in losing and gaining eclipse will be through shooting stars procs as well as redotting your Moonfire or Sunfire. It's easier to illustrate this effect when leaving lunar eclipse, as the travel time for Starfire is much less than Wrath, but it applies leaving lunar solar eclipse as well. So I'll first try to get a shooting stars proc, and I'll show you exactly how to get extra damage. Got one. So what I'm going to do is cast Starfire, and I'll be spamming Star Surge at the same time. And what that will actually do is the game will recognize you as casting both Starfire and Star Surge during the lunar eclipse, and you'll gain benefit from both of those casts. And you see, I saw the lunar eclipse buff for a small amount of time, and I did get that instant cast Star Surge off, so I got the damage benefit, the lunar 60% extra damage benefit from Starfire and Star Surge, but I only had enough room in my eclipse energy for one cast. Doing this near the end of every eclipse, either between refreshing a dot or casting that saving shooting stars for that instant in time, will actually lead to greater eclipse casts per total rotation, and it's going to give you a very large damage increase. You'll see probably one of the biggest from that, actually. The same travel time mechanic applies to the dots. Say my Moonfire had about 8 seconds left on it, and I was about this position in my Eclipse bar. By the time I were to leave Eclipse, it would have maybe 2 or 3 ticks of damage left on it. It's worth it to clip this Moonfire and to roll an Eclipse Moonfire all the way into Solar Eclipse than it would be to let it fall off 5 seconds from now, refresh it with a non-Eclipse dot, and then continue the rotation from there. So I'll just illustrate that. Start with dots here. We'll wait a little bit and simulate the rotation as if you had dotted at a higher Eclipse energy and you're just going through the rotation. So right about here is where I start the cast. And now I'm going to spam Moonfire right here. I still have the Eclipse buff. It goes off, I get a buff Moonfire. It's gaining benefit from Mastery right now. And I'd be able to take this Moonfire all the way through. You can refresh the Insect Swarm whenever because Lunar Eclipse does not benefit from Insect Swarm. Leaving Solar, if I were to do this trick, I would try to do both. But since you already have Nature's Grace active, go for Sunfire first.